No warning sirens, no countdown, just the ground beneath your feet, deciding it was done staying quiet. On a March morning in 2026, the summit of Kīlauea split open. And what came out of it was nothing short of ancient fury, lava fountains punching 1,300 feet into the sky, a column of ash rising 5 miles above the island, and a rain of volcanic glass so fine, so sharp, it cut through the air like a whisper that could bleed. This isn't a story about a natural disaster. This is a story about a planet reminding you who's actually in charge. Stay with me, because what happened inside that crater over 9 straight hours is one of the most spectacular geological events of our lifetime. To understand what happened, you first have to understand where it happened. Kīlauea sits on the southeastern flank of the big island of Hawaii, one of the most volcanically active places on the surface of this earth. It's not just active by Hawaiian standards, by any standard on any continent, on any map you've ever looked at. This volcano belongs in a category of its own. It has been erupting on and off for decades. Some scientists argue it has never truly stopped. The mountain doesn't sleep. It breathes, sometimes quietly, sometimes like this. At its heart lies Halemaʻumaʻu crater, a name that translates roughly to House of the Ama'u Fern. But there is nothing gentle about what lives inside it. The crater is a window into the mantle of the earth itself, a hole in the ground that connects our world to the deep, molten machinery underneath it. And in March of 2026, that window blew wide open. The earth always talks before it acts. The question is whether anyone is listening. In the days leading up to the eruption, the Hawaiian Volcano Observatory, the scientists who watched this mountain full-time, began picking up the signals. Swarms of small earthquakes rippling through the summit region. Ground deformation sensors showing the surface tilting outward, inflating as magma pressed upward through the rock beneath. The pressure was building. The reservoir was filling. It was the geological equivalent of a dam at capacity. And the wall was about to give. On the morning of the eruption, those readings crossed a threshold. What had been a slow accumulation over weeks became, within hours, something that could no longer be contained. The mountain had made its decision. It started at the crater floor. Fissures cracked open along the base of Halemaʻumaʻu, thin lines at first, glowing orange like embers in a fire pit. Then the ground between them collapsed, and out of those cracks came something that has no real equivalent in ordinary human experience. Lava fountains, not streams of lava, not pools, fountains, vertical columns of molten rock and gas firing upward with a force that would make any industrial machine look fragile. Within the first hour, those fountains were climbing hundreds of feet. By mid-eruption, the tallest had reached 1,300 feet above the crater floor. For scale, the Empire State Building stands 1,450 feet tall, antenna included. These fountains came close. These weren't geological events you read about in a textbook. These were things you felt in your chest from miles away. The roar, the heat, the light that made the sky above the summit glow orange even through the ash cloud forming above it. 9 hours. The eruption ran for 9 straight hours, and it did not slow down. As the lava fountains raged below, something else was happening above. The eruption was generating a volcanic plume, a massive column of ash, gas, and pulverized rock that punched straight up into the atmosphere. At its peak, that column reached 25,000 feet. That is nearly 5 miles of sky claimed by Kīlauea. To put that in context, commercial aircraft typically cruise at 30 to 35,000 feet. This plume was pushing into their airspace, not hypothetically, literally. Hilo International Airport, The main gateway to the Big Island's east side was grounded. Flights canceled. Arrivals rerouted. The sky above the island wasn't safe for anything with an engine and passengers. Meanwhile, on the ground, the ash wasn't just a visual spectacle. It was falling. A fine gray powder settling across the summit area, coating roads, vegetation, vehicles. The kind of ash that gets into everything and damages anything with moving parts. But the ash was only part of it. The more dangerous material was still coming. When lava fountains tear molten rock into the air at that kind of velocity, strange things happen to the material on the way up. Some of it cools so quickly, stretched and pulled by the wind, that it forms threads. Long, thin, golden strands of volcanic glass so fine they're nearly translucent. Hawaiians have a name for this, Pele's hair, named for the volcano goddess herself. It sounds beautiful, and it is in photographs. But what it feels like to walk through it is something else entirely. These threads are glass, real glass. Sharp enough to scratch, fine enough to become airborne, light enough to travel miles from the source. They land on skin, in eyes, in lungs, if you're not wearing protection. Mixed in with heavier tephra, chunks of solidified lava and rock blasted out by the fountains. And what fell across the summit area in March 2026 was essentially a rain of volcanic sandpaper. Highway 11, the main artery connecting Volcano Village to the rest of the island, was shut down. Not because of lava flows blocking the road, because the air itself was the hazard. Driving through tephra fallout at those concentrations risks engine damage, visibility loss, and breathing conditions no one should experience without a respirator. In the summit of Hawaii Volcanoes National Park, closed. The overlooks, the visitor center, the trails that draw hundreds of thousands of people every year to witness this mountain. All of it locked down. While the world above the crater was being dusted in glass and ash, inside Halemaʻumaʻu, something extraordinary was taking shape. The lava fountains were feeding a growing lava lake on the crater floor. This is what Kīlauea does. It builds layer by layer, eruption by eruption. The crater floor has risen hundreds of feet over recent decades, built entirely from the accumulated output of events exactly like this one. The walls of the crater were alive with cascading lava, glowing rivers running down toward the filling basin below. At times, sections of the inner wall collapsed into the lake, sending shockwaves of molten rock outward and triggering secondary spattering. Smaller fountains erupting where the impact hit. The USGS Hawaiian Volcano Observatory was monitoring all of it in real time. Webcams, seismometers, tilt meters, gas sensors measuring the sulfur dioxide output, which at peak eruption was registering in the range that triggers health advisories across downwind communities. VOG, volcanic smog, drifted southwest with the trade winds, the way it always does when Kīlauea is active. A haze hanging over the districts of Kau and Kona, a reminder that even miles from the action, you are never truly outside the reach of this mountain. And then, 9 hours after it started, it stopped. Volcanic eruptions don't end the way storms do. With a final gust and then silence, they taper. The fountains drop in height. The glow dims. The roar lowers to a hiss, then to nothing. By the time the eruption concluded, Halemaʻumaʻu crater had received another layer of its own history. The lava lake had risen. The crater floor had grown. The volcano had added to itself, as it has been doing for hundreds of thousands of years. Scientists moved in to assess. Lava flow maps were updated. Gas measurements were taken. The new material deposited on the crater floor was documented. Another chapter in the ongoing geological record of one of the world's most studied volcanoes. Highway 11 slowly reopened as tephra fallout subsided and air quality improved. Hilo Airport resumed operations, and the National Park Service began the process of evaluating when the summit could safely welcome visitors again. But here's the thing about Kīlauea that no one who visits this place ever quite forgets. There is no after here. There is only between. While everyone's eyes were on Kīlauea, while the fountains were climbing and the ash column was growing, the mountain to the northwest was being very quiet. Too quiet, perhaps. Mauna Loa, the largest active volcano on Earth, not just in Hawaii, not just in the Pacific, on the entire planet. Its summit stands nearly 14,000 feet above sea level, but that number is almost misleading, because the true scale of Mauna Loa is measured from the ocean floor. From base to peak, this mountain is over 30,000 feet tall. It is larger by total volume than any other volcano on Earth. And in the week surrounding Kīlauea's March 2026 eruption, Mauna Loa was recording something that the scientists were watching very carefully. More than 100 earthquakes in the summit region. Not major quakes, small ones, the kind you wouldn't feel standing on the street, but clusters, patterns. The kind of seismic activity that, when combined with ground deformation data showing gradual inflation of the summit area, tells a story about what may be happening underground. Magma moving, pressure building. A system that last erupted in late 2022, its first eruption in nearly 4 decades at the time, potentially beginning to recharge. Is Mauna Loa about to erupt? No scientist worth their credentials will give you a date. The Earth doesn't work on schedules, but what the data shows is that Mauna Loa is not dormant. It is not resting. It is an active system. And active systems, given enough time and enough pressure, do what active systems do. The USGS has it on continuous watch, and so do we. There is a version of this story where we treat what happened in March 2026 as a crisis, a disruption, an inconvenience to flight schedules and highway commuters. And in the immediate sense, yes, it was all of those things. But step back far enough, and what you're really looking at is something older than language, older than memory, older than any human idea about what this island is or who it belongs to. Kīlauea has been doing this for hundreds of thousands of years, long before there was a Highway 11 to close, long before there was an airport to ground, long before there was anyone standing at the crater rim with a camera and a racing heartbeat. The volcano doesn't know about us. It doesn't care about the inconvenience. It is simply doing what it has always done, building this island, one eruption at a time, dragging new land out of the deep earth and adding it to the world. And somewhere to the northwest, Mauna Loa is listening, breathing slowly, biding its time. This story isn't over. It's never over. It's just between chapters. If this video got under your skin, the way it got under mine, drop a comment below. What part of this eruption surprised you the most? I read every one. And if you want to go deeper on Mauna Loa, the science, the history, the 2022 eruption that nobody predicted, that video is up next. See you there.